If the trailers for the Bikeriders are any indicator, Tom Hardy does not speak English in this movie. So today's review is brought to you by Do Re Mi Captiview, the captioning service offered at AMC theaters. Welcome back to Movie Health Community, the internet's #1 source of health warnings at the movies. We're talking about the Bikeriders today, but before we get to the review, let's talk about whether this movie is safe for photosensitive audiences. The answer is,
believe it or not, yes, the Bikeriders is safe for photosensitive audiences. There are a couple of very minor potential hazards, very mild flashes. There's a scene with a fire, and this fire has a very light flicker to it, like a very soft fading flicker instead of a flashing flicker. This same scene has some very slow spinning style police and emergency vehicle lights. Then there's one part where there's a gunshot at night that lights up the screen. Very mild flashes, if anything at all. For flashing lights, we are giving the Bikeriders a 1 out of 10. This is going in our new pinned post on Facebook and Tumblr as a movie that is safe for photosensitive audiences. If you're watching this on YouTube, this is also going in a playlist on this channel of photosensitivity-friendly movies. I have a few mental health trigger warnings. There's a scene where a person is repeatedly groped by many people. There's a scene of an attempt at sexual assault. There's a scene of horribly visceral domestic violence. And there is a discussion about suicidal ideation. That about does it for our health evaluation, and always keep in mind that nothing produced by Movie Health Community is medical advice, nor has any of it ever been reviewed by any medical professionals. Now that that's all out of the way, let's talk about if the Bikeriders is any good. This movie employs a lot of tricks to really immerse you in the time period it takes place, the late 60s into the early 70s. One of the tricks that it uses to do this is making all the music be soundtracked instead of scored. So instead of getting an orchestral score or a techno score or new original instrumental music for this movie, almost all the music is licensed music from the era and earlier. There's an art to arranging a soundtrack to a movie. Quentin Tarantino's really good at that. James Gunn is really good at that. And let's put Jeff Nichols on that list too. He is really good at the art of soundtracking a movie. I kind of wish this movie had been available in the Dolby screen or the IMAX screen, because the engine sounds in this movie were beautiful. Just as beautiful as the ones in Furiosa. I almost started to write down a complaint about one character hardly speaking at all in this movie. But that facet of this person's character actually pays off with a really great emotional moment toward the end of the movie. My biggest complaint about this movie is that I can't understand a word that Tom Hardy says, and so having the captioning device tonight really helped. But more than that, and more relevant to a YouTube review channel, the flow of this movie was kind of slow. There were some parts where the story slowed down and just didn't keep itself interesting enough to justify slowing down. But the filmmaking craft, the way this movie was shot and designed, and on all technical levels and on all performance levels, this movie was excellent. This movie had the makings to become a classic, but it still ended up being really pretty good. So even though there's all of that to complain about, I'm still impressed by the craft of this movie, all of the technical craft, and the empathetic side of me enjoys how fun it looked to make this movie. So I am going to give the Bikeriders an A-. Thank you so much to our readers on Tumblr and Facebook, and as always, an extra special thanks to our patrons over on our Patreon page, whose names are scrolling on the screen like credits right now. Be sure to leave a like on this video, hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon if you want to be notified when we post new videos, and let's give you a special announcement now. Our next Flashing Lights warning tracks, which are both coming out in July. That's right, we are doing 2 Flashing Lights warning tracks in July. We've already announced this on Patreon, but the titles that are getting these new Flashing Lights warning tracks will be Dune from 2021 and Dune Part 2 from 2024. The track for Dune Part 1 will be free on our Patreon page for streaming or download, and that is with no Patreon account necessary. If you like what you see in the free flashing light warning track for Dune Part 1, consider joining the $5 tier or purchasing flashing lights warning tracks individually in our Patreon shop. And as always, stay safe at the movies.